Good evening. How are you? Ben, I can see Ben, Ella, a couple familiar faces. Beautiful. Just pop that to the side. How are we? Hot today? Very hot. I know it's a bit stifling. Has everyone got their assignments in? I predicted this would be a bit of a smaller class because it's due tonight, isn't it? Yeah.
I'm trying not to think about it. I hate it once it's submitted and then there's still time left because then I'm just trying to go. The due date was yesterday, it's done, but it's not.
Yeah. I know you always think that you can do more, or you're like, should I put it in? Or yeah, I know. It's stress. It's more of a psychological game than anything, isn't it? The assignments. Well, Bara, hello. I think we might all be in. I haven't got anyone left in the waiting room. Might kick off. Well, thank you again. Yes, submitter Ella. Good to hear. Good luck with it. If you haven't, thank you for joining. I know it's stressful trying to get assignments done. You've probably got other assignments due at the same time, so I appreciate you joining. You'll have to bear with me. I'm on one screen today. I normally have two screens. I'm up on Bundjalung at the moment. It's my first wedding anniversary, so we came away for a couple of days just up here. So yeah, I hope that I can organize everything, but I'm just on the one screen. So if I don't see the chat, I've got it up. But if I don't see it, just give me a yell or put your hand up or something like that. But we'll crack on. This is a really exciting and I think for me the most important one. Thank you. I think the most important probably module. I said like in the last 4 or 3 weeks that we've been together, looking at how to actually connect with community is a really important thing as well. So, okay, Ben, I was like, I think I know someone who was at your wedding. Are you Sam's
Yeah,
son?
yeah. She was stoked when she found out that you were lecturing. Yeah, and I was
Okay.
like, how do I tell you this without being creepy? Yeah.
So for preface and to preface, Ben's mum was my celebrant, and I saw your name come up, and I saw your face, and there's definitely a resemblance.
Okay.
I was like, I wonder. I said something to Mick. I was like, I wonder if that was Sam's son. Oh
Oh my
wow,
God, that's so
there we
funny.
go.
Small world. Oh, well, and then I Googled you and then I saw your focus
Oh
teacher as
yeah,
well, which actually I would say anybody that's interested should read it. I think it's fantastic. Yeah.
thank you. You're also getting married soon, right?
Oh yeah, no, my wedding was 6 months ago, so yeah,
You did.
nearly 1 year.
Oh, congrats too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sam
Um,
had a bunch of because Nicola also is married soon. Is that right?
yeah, 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Wow. Small.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm glad that you've made that connection because I was thinking and I was probably a bit the same. I didn't want to be creeper in the background, like I think I know your mum.
No,
Oh.
yeah. I mean, it's such a small world down in Coffs. So
Mhm.
yeah, exciting.
We love her. She was so fantastic. And that was really beautiful as well at the ceremony. Uncle Troy came and did this gorgeous smoking where he kind of, there was only 11 guests, I think. So we had Sam and
Oh,
Uncle Troy came and did a really nice smoking for us, which was beautiful. But
that's really
wow, thank you for making that connection. For everyone else on
cool.
there, thanks for coming along on that. All right, well, we kick off. I'll acknowledge the country. I'm up on Bundjalung country today. Acknowledge the elders past, present, emerging, and anyone joining us on the call as well, and extending that respect to the countries that you're coming from. So looking at module 4, as I said, this is a really big piece, is that building community. So looking at how you can successfully and I guess form relationships in a really positive way, making sure that you're feeling supported, making sure that you're doing the right things in forming those relationships with the community, but also obviously parents, the broader school ecosystem as well. So we'll just dive into a couple of ways in which you can do that. We'll look at how you can connect with your local area. Sorry, someone else in the room. Looking at how you can connect to your local area, the best avenues to do that. So again, we've been touching on these things the whole way along, but we'll kind of really dive and sink our teeth into what it looks like logistically when you can be looking at forming relationships as a teacher. we will watch this. I'll give this to you to watch yourself. Again, my sound's really dodgy. Copy that. Actually, let me know if you can hear this. No, it's not going to work. Here we go. Sorry. Here we go. All right, just watch this for a couple of minutes to kick us off, and then we'll come back together.
So we went in the wild and we collected 8 different. There are a lot of Aboriginal people in your local community. What
we go. That was 4-minute video. Have we all finished watching it yet? Great, getting a couple thumbs up. Awesome, we'll move on. So I think that's a really great overview, that video, of just making sure that we understand the importance of connection and community and doing that in the correct and right way, engaging the right people. So that's what we'll do this module. We'll just dive into that a little bit more deeply, but as that video kind of highlighted, the most important things when working in this space is those relationships. So how can you be making relationships and connections that feel genuine, authentic? I feel like all of us would recognize when, you know, you can tell someone's just trying to tick a box. So how can we make sure that we're avoiding that? How can we avoid that both as an individual and then a representative of our school as well when we're working with communities? So this is something really, again, all of this is available on Blackboard. This is something really good that's come out from the Australian Journal of Indigenous Education. Again, another really great place for you to go to when looking at resources or you're feeling stuck. But again, it talks about that importance of building relationships. This is in terms of a remote Aboriginal school setting. So perhaps, obviously, there's going to be some different things to consider there, but community is going to be really central to the school and how the school kind of operates within the town as well. So this is a great place to go to. Excuse me, I always get the hiccups in these classes. This is a great place to go to, the Australian Journal of Indigenous Education. But here it's just an article outlining what that looks like. So you want active involvement of the parents in the education of their children. And this has been associated with increased quality of educational experiences and positive outcomes for the students. It is well accepted that highly effective schools have high level of parent and community engagement. So obviously it's not just to make sure the community is feeling good, it's all those kind of things that you want to address, the social, emotional, psychological, academic well-being of your students. All of that can be addressed really well when you're making sure that you're engaging with community in a really genuine and meaningful way. So again, there's just another resource to head to that will help you out. This is coming from the Department of Ed. So again, talking about how important that is. There are a couple of groups of, I guess, or slides of lots of words on the screen. We'll dissect some of them, but it's just a really clear way. There's a lot of resources that can make you feel well supported in doing this. I recognize as a non-Indigenous person myself, it can be really daunting. You want to make sure you're doing things in the right way. As we spoke last week, there's I guess those excuses around why you might not engage, or, you know, there's a lot of fear in saying the wrong thing or engaging in the wrong way. So there's some really good resources out there for you to make sure that you're looking at that in the correct way. You know, if you think, oh, I've got this really great idea, I want to connect with the elders, or there's something, but how can I make sure that I'm doing it genuinely? Again, rely on your intuition. Does it feel genuine to you? If it does, it's probably going to come across really genuine. But then looking at this, so just that bottom paragraph, which we'll dive into a little bit here. It's important that a rapport be established with members of the local Aboriginal community. So what does that look like? It's normally the Aboriginal Land Council. Something I think very specific to education that other fields don't have, which I think is desperately needed. Each area has the New South Wales Aboriginal Education Consulting Group. So the AECG, Coffs Harbour's got one, all the towns are going to have one, and it's a really cool place. So about once a month or a couple of times a term, elected representatives from each school will come and communicate. That's the place where a lot of people are talking about events happening, how to engage in the local community, if there's any, I guess, broad issues within school systems relating to Aboriginal community, that's where it's going to be discussed. So if you can find out who is in your AECG, where they meet, when they meet, which member of your school is in that, because that's going to be a really big one. So obviously, if it's a big commitment to go to that all the time, but engaging with the people that I guess are in the know and are connected. So again, if you've got a great idea, there's going to be someone in your school community that goes to that group that talks at those places. And again, they're going to have a really good broad overview of the connections within the community. Chances are you've had a really cool idea. Someone at another school's had the same idea. So you can, I was going to say cross-contaminate, cross collaborate across those kind of different streams, so you're not all doing work from the start. You can build upon what each other has already done. So definitely looking where your AECG is, that most probably should be in your school website or a contact there. But again, each of them will most likely have their own website. I do know that the Coffs Harbour one, as I said, I'm not a teacher, but I used to go to those meetings running high school programs, which was fantastic because you've got so much engagement there. The teachers have so many years of experience. So that's probably, if you're taking anything away from this lecture or anything I've said at all, look at your AECGs, who they are, where they meet, who that person or representative is within your school system as well. Looking at this again, it's just another resource, but talking about connecting to your local group. So again, this is on the Department of Ed. There's the list of all the AECGs. Aboriginal Land Council, I know that we discussed this at the start. I think it was in the first class we discussed this. They're the overarching body for anything that happens and anyone who's anyone within kind of that Aboriginal space. The land councils are the ones to go through. So I'm not sure if it's more maybe an exec level, of people that deal with it, which might be you one day, but a lot of students might have trouble, mainly in high school, with their confirmation of Aboriginality and obtaining that. So that's a document that the government wants, if students need to proof of Aboriginality for scholarships, healthcare, whatever that may be, Centrelink as well, you need that document, and that's the Land Council does that. So you would say, I'm a Gumbaynggirr person, you go to the Land Council, and then they're the ones that kind of are able to sign off on whether you're actively engaged in that community as an Aboriginal person or not. So that's something that you might come across in high school. I know that's a period of time when a lot of students start seeking out some of that documentation, just to make sure as they kind of move into their adult years, they've got that. But again, the land councils are definitely the place to go to as well. And there would be connections across the board from the school with land councils already. Second to that is traditional custodians. So again, custodians. So again, this looks different. There's also traditional owners. But again, that's the type, I guess, the groups of people which are active in the lands that you're residing on, and they would again have a strong connection to the land council. There's going to be a lot of overlap there in their different roles. But again, that's a really great place as well to be understanding kind of, those connections and ways that you can engage the community. Okay, sorry. I promise we'll all get to share some ideas in chat. It's not just me this time. We've kind of gone over this stuff. So again, this is from the Board of Studies. And we've been going through this, honing this the last 3 or 4 weeks. It's really critical for you to have a kind of self-reflection or self-understanding of where you sit. We've kind of highlighted that local approach, which is really important because of the diversity. It's really important to have that strong connection locally to where you'll be teaching and where the communities that you're teaching have come from. So again, Board of Studies says, looking at the connections that the places and the community on, if it's Gumbaynggirr, Bunjalung, Dangari, looking at the types of connections that are pre-existing, understanding the history of the place as well, understanding what's happened, some of the things that the community might be going through. Again, finding events and things from the Land Council is an incredible start. And again, that ensures that you can then feel a little bit more comfortable if you've educated yourself on, I guess, the challenges and the community and the who's who. It's a really good place to then be building on those connections through different NAIDOC events, different community members. That's a really great place to be starting. But again, it all comes down to kind of how are you connecting with the local community, and if you can arm yourself with a lot of knowledge and information, that's obviously going to be your best starting point as well. Going through these slides. Again, a lot of this we've covered, and I think in this group you're very intuitive with the ways in which, I mean, all school teachers are most of the time quite socially aware and have a good social intelligence. So I think carry that through in any conversations, any connections that you're going to make. But again, just to provide you with a little bit more confidence in doing so. Yeah, just going through some of these resources that we've got. As we've already acknowledged throughout, so Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community is very diverse across different cultures, across different nations. It's going to be really different, the ways in which kind of groups and I think demographics on different geographies interact as well. So just having a really clear understanding that it's going to be different everywhere you go. The communities are obviously going to be very different. The ways and understanding of, those kind of social cues are different as well, as they are with all cultures. But just on this, establishing relationships requires being patient and flexible, and it takes time to develop, but also is worthwhile. Communication can either be formal or informal, professional and social. It is about knowing the context and the appropriateness for the conversation. An important communication skill is being prepared to learn through listening, observing and understanding each other rather than asking too many questions. Be honest and genuine and share with people if this is a new experience for you. I think something in that, and from personal experience as well, I think the key is that patience. You might go to 1 or 2 NAIDOC events and think, oh, great, I'm in with the community. This is really simple and clear, and it might happen that way, but a lot of it is just ongoing presence. I've said, there's nothing more important than active presence. If you can keep showing up, there's different things on at the school. You say, I want to go to that event. There's these different events within the community. If you can be that face, I guess, of trusted, showing that you're a strong ally, it can take a really long time to kind of become that. But then once you're there, the community will be very embracing, and you've shown that this is a space that you want to be active in. This is a space that you're willing to learn and listen in. So again, I think if you can do that, any of your actions are gonna come across as very genuine as well. Great, I can stop talking. I think just in terms of context as well, it was a really proud moment for me, but it does take a long time. So Jinda is the word for sister in Gumbaynggirr, and a lot of community throw around the word Jinda. And it was probably only last year that someone, one of the uncles called me Jinda. And for me, I was like, oh, wow, like that was really special. It was like, I think that was so nice. But it had taken me probably 4 or 5 years of that constant showing up, making sure I'm embracing community and getting to that point, because obviously there's going to be a lot of, I guess, challenges within that space, any community, but there has been a kind of that backing of mistrust in a lot of communities that you might be working with. So just having that patience and taking that time and just showing that you're a presence is definitely going to take you really far in kind of this community building piece. Okay, so I'm going to stop talking. We all get to have a bit of a chat. So I'll pop you into, how many people have we got? Smaller group. I'll pop you into a couple of breakout rooms and discussing this. So I'll give you probably 5 minutes or so. So flesh it out a little bit more. Take some time if you need to initially, but think of a time when you had to build trust with someone over time. What did it take and how did it feel? So again, I'll put you into breakout rooms and we'll come back in 5 minutes or so and just kind of flesh out what it can look like to have those conversations with community. All good? I'll be in the chat if you need me. Otherwise, see you in a couple of minutes. Just texting Ben's mum now. Okay, it looks like one group has come back, still waiting on the other. Get to it. Corey, how'd you go? Is your assignment submitted or you do a last minute stress tonight? Submitted?
Yeah, it's done. I don't like leaving things to last minute too, like OCD and anxiety.
Yeah, get it in. Yeah.
Get it in.
Good.
Band-aid off.
That's it. And then you can stop thinking about it, stop feeling guilty every time you do something that's not related to an assignment.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I think we're all back. Yeah, it looks like it. Awesome. Floors open to you. What were some of the things that you guys discussed?
All right. So we discussed how it can be super awkward in the beginning. And particularly knowing that you're going into this building of trust, and especially as the video said, often people will be like, I need, can you help? Can you? And knowing that in the back of your mind that that's where you would like to get to, and being transparent, but also not being taking initially is a very fine balance in terms of transparency, and that relationships can take years to build and seconds to break. So that and also just understanding the amount of commitment that it takes, especially in an industry that can be quite time poor at times in terms of the demands of everyone pulling at you to do all of the things, making sure you've got not only that time and commitment to nurture that relationship, but then also take the learnings from that relationship and put it into the lessons and look back at it and reflect on it and cultivate it and grow it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of our interactions now do feel a bit of that transactional, and it's normal, I want this from you, you want that from me, great, let's do that, but I think that's definitely something to be aware of, that we don't need to, I think, start out our relationship building from that point. Yeah. Thank you, Cora. Next group, what did you guys have a chat about?
Well, we also talked about relationship as something that is reciprocal, and then showing interest, especially when we looked at the indigenous people, if they come to understand that you are actually interested, in the culture, language, that's a springboard for them to really come out, strong, to divulging even more things than you ever expected. So trust, interest, and reciprocity, these are things that help to build and foster relationship, and then building of trust.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's some 3 or 4 really key ideas. But that, interest and being curious, learning, being open to learn as well is a really big one. We're often not open to learn about the other person. It's more of kind of, as we just discussed, what can that person do for me, rather than who is that person and how can we work together. So yeah, there's some really good key points to work off. Any other thoughts on this before we move on? Beautiful. Well, this next section is a really great guide in how to do that. So it's a quick and easy guide to proper consultation, coming from the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander principles and protocols, which is really great. So this, again, it's quite intuitive. Again, I feel as if I would trust you to make those connections and be, I think, appropriate in those connections. But again, it's just really clear. Something that I was really lucky in the last workplace that I was at, it was Aboriginal owned and led. We were really strong in how we engaged with, I guess, externals. And it was, you never went in and was like, this is what I am and this is what I do and this is what we want from you, basically. It was the first touch point. Again, as Cora said, it's a really hard place to be when you are quite time poor. But the first touch point was always a conversation. It had no goal other than to connect with that person, for you to know who they were, for them to know who you were, and to build that trust. And so I think that's a really big thing, is always just introducing yourself, being soft and slow in that moment, rather than barging past the introductions and the connections, and then actually getting to a point of having I guess, a bit of a casual conversation rather than this agenda. That's a really big thing. If you've ever seen a lot of Aboriginal people meet each other for the first time, it's, oh, you know, who's your mob? Where are you from? What are your connections? And it's this place of, I guess, understanding where each of us fit into that, or where each of them fit into that. So that's another thing, and just making sure you're grounding yourself, I guess, within that space, within the connection initially, rather than barging past and having an agenda that you want to address. It's just a very kind of casual initial yarn of who are you and why, you know, why you're kind of part of the community now, how they can connect or reference who you are, and rather than just going straight into an agenda of this is what I want. So again, that's a really big thing. Not assuming, as we spoke in the first class, it's really important. We don't get to decide who anyone is. We don't get to decide their identity. We get to be told that by someone and then respect that. So again, it's not assuming that someone identifies in whatever way or which kind of where they sit. It's for us to accept and listen where someone might be. So again, it's not holding any assumptions towards that person or community. Being honest and sincere. As the last couple of slides said, you can say that this is the first time I'm making these connections. I want to, you know, build on this. Just being humble in that engagement rather than coming with, I guess, a bit of an ego. I know that all of us do it when you've got a bit of fear. You can kind of mask up with a bit of ego to make sure people don't see that fear. It's okay to let that go and go, this is a new space for me. You know, I want to make sure that I'm doing it appropriately. How can, you know, I do so, or things like that. Again, just making sure that you don't think that you know everything. Again, I feel like I'm preaching to the converted, but must be said anyway. Being really clear, appropriate language as always, not using a lot of jargon, things like that. This number 8 and 9, I think as well, like we just said, removing that ego, just meeting the space where it's at, not coming in boasting that you've got this, excuse me, this is what you can do for other people. It's just meeting someone kind of as individuals first before work colleagues or whatever that is, meeting each other and just having that casual conversation. As we've discussed previously, we've got that big cultural iceberg. Things can be really different from what they're seeing on the top to the bottom. And one of those things can be those social cues. So often direct eye contact can be something to look at. You know, a lot of community might not give direct eye contact. So that's something that not to be considered rude, but it's just something to be aware of as well. Dealing practical and real issues, not theoretical ideas. So again, just something that we are looking at. I'll move on to this part. So this is what we really spoke about, and I should have pulled it up. I will pull it up when we have a break, for kind of the Coffs Harbour space, the one that I'm more familiar with. But this is where you should be looking for your local community. So this one's Maddie's area, which is up in the Tweed space. And just looking around what already exists in the area that you've got. So I do know Coffs Harbour's got the Yarrawarra Aboriginal Centre, Garambilla, which is the Aboriginal Medical Centre. We've got the Saltwater Freshwater Gallery, which is really cool as well. And then obviously local land councils, Murabai, who do the language restoration. So again, just having, I guess, an understanding of what's out there in your community, the centres, but then also what the centres offer. So many places will do language learning. It's really cool at the moment. There's some like calendar, the seasonal calendar that different places are starting to offer and teach the community of the different seasons on the place, on the land that those people are living. So again, just really diving into what's around. This can start with a Google search, a conversation with some friends if you know that, you know, they've been connected or they've had kids that have done cool events. So again, it's really just finding out what's out there and educating yourself on the lands that you're living on at the moment. But we'll move on to a bit more of a discussion. So we'll do we have a break yet? I feel like we're on a bit of a roll. We'll do this activity, then we'll have a break after it. We'll come back and discuss it. But I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes to yourself to essentially do that. So it's researching what exists in the area that you live in, some of the key people, a lot of publications. We're really lucky that there's a lot of Indigenous academics and authors coming from kind of the East Coast at the moment. There's this really beautiful movement. One of the guys from my workplace has just published a book on poetry, which is really fantastic. I forget the name of it. So that's another really great place as well, is looking at any kind of academic texts coming out or ideas and papers from community members on this East Coast or where you're residing on. But what I'll do, I'll give you 5 to 10 minutes, have a look at the chat to see when we come back, just to do your own research. We'll then come back, have a discussion of what we saw. I imagine a lot of us might be on the same countries, and then we'll go and have a proper break. So these questions on the screen, I'll put them in the chat now, but just go and have a look, do some research, what's around, who's who on the places that you are, and then we'll come back in 7 minutes, give you a little bit longer, and discuss that. How does that sound? Great, couple of thumbs up. All right, off you go and do some research. Okay.
Okay.
Beautiful. How did any of us go finding some stuff on the places that we are? I can see a couple of you are on cameras off. Maybe pop in the chat if you found anything in your local area. And then we'll have a little discussion what we found and then have our proper break as well. Feel like some people might have gone on longer break anyway.
I'm up in Meanjin in Brisbane, and I think it's always been really difficult, even in the work I do every day, when I try and conceptualize like how to acknowledge traditional custodians in a way that is, I guess, proper in terms of land rights and things. So just doing research, then it didn't surprise me that there wasn't one land council for Brisbane, like that it's actually one for Southeast Queensland, and also the Turrbal tribe. Like it's kind of funny how our Western concept of what a city is must mean that that's how it's boxed up, and it's not the case. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. That is that's something I've not thought about as well. That you're assuming, would it be one thing because we see Brisbane as one big kind of entity, but it's obviously going to be so different as well, isn't it?
Yeah, so I see
Mm,
that being sometimes hard. Oh, yeah, hard for people to wrap their minds around when you're trying to talk about connection to country and place. I really enjoyed
mm,
the first week you did a tutorial when you explained, like you reminded me about connections to country, because I think sometimes
mm,
I get a bit too obsessed with like the actual boundaries of countries, but that's not always the whole point either.
mhm. Something that I was really lucky in my research. Uncle Reg, his name is here because I was a bit the same, in my head I'm like, oh, Coffs Harbour, that's what it is. Um, and he was talking about how all of the boundaries for country are natural barriers. So Coffs Harbour goes to the Clarence in the north and to the Macleay in the south, the opposite, I think. And it's rivers, and then you've got mountain ranges are obviously the ones. So again, it's when you take away kind of that Western overlay, and you're like, oh, this is really obvious. I went to a talk the other day and they were saying how all the names, the Aboriginal names for places, indicate what happens there. So one of the places, its name is kind of like, flooded plains, and it floods there all the time. And you're like, oh, if I can take away kind of what I think things should be and see them for what they are, it's actually quite it's very logical, isn't it? It's just up to us to kind of remove what we put on it ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. So no, that's great. Thank you. I know I enjoyed when I did my first placement a few months ago. It was NAIDOC week, and we had some
Cool.
people come in to assembly and do a really amazing session, and traditional owners, and they spoke about um, how crossing the Brisbane River was a permission giving and a permission seeking exercise. Not like exercise is one for a better term, but culturally significant in that you would seek permission days in advance, cross the river, and then they sort of told us in language how they would do that. And it would always be with who's your mob or who are you, where are you from? Because that's showing respect about which land you're on. And yeah, it was really kind of mind-blowing. And then I just like on my way home, I'm like, oh, here I am crossing the bridge like it's nothing. Like, yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah, I think it's that that it's all founded on respect, but kind of what are you going to do on this land, or why are you coming here? It's to respect the people that are already existing there, to, not tread on toes, or similar things. Someone was saying down here that, they'd kind of go to the water's edge and see that a group might have wanted to cross over the river, or, and kind of gain permission to be there, saying that, we're not coming here to, kind of, he was talking about fish, not going to steal all the fish from the river. It's that respect and reciprocity with the land, with each other, different countries and communities. Yeah, but that's something for me as well, like thinking in terms of a city more broadly, how it's going to be a different relationship to regional and then again to remote areas as well. It's a very different dynamic to kind of understand.
Mm, mm.
There's lots of cool stuff in the chat. You guys are finding organizations, alliances, interagencies, culturally safe aged care. Oh, this is who's put that in? Yes, whoever's put that in, that's a big conversation. I had a conversation just this week talking about aged care. So it was more in terms of Aboriginal healthcare, and talking about LGBTI plus community too, that going into aged care is a different stage of life when, you might have built your own lifestyle, you've built your own ways of living and community. And then aged care, there aren't many, there's not a lot of autonomy in how and where you end up and how you interact. So I think that's a big thing that's becoming more and more, is looking at aged care services as well for Aboriginal community. Awesome. A lot of places will have an Aboriginal health organization as well, or medical center. That's a good place too, just to know of, in terms of reference when you might be working with students or things, just knowing that that's a service that's available as well. This is awesome. Everyone's found some really cool stuff. And again, it's going to be so unique. Communities at very different stages of their, I guess, understanding, learning. Some are, really deep into that kind of reclaiming of cultures. Others are a little bit more new to it, or, different barriers to get there. So yeah, there's a lot to consider. But as you were doing your research in the background, we'll go and have a 5-minute break, have some, I don't know, scroll, have a look at whoever's made you dinner. Hopefully someone's made you dinner. And then we'll come back at 7:10, and then we'll move into the second half and look at the second assignment too. So, or 10 past the hour. I know we're in different places. So 6 minutes, go and have a little break, and then we'll come back and start the second half fresh. Beautiful. Had a little break. What was dinner, Jane?
We have a lovely Indonesian lady and her daughter that live with us. So Monday night is Indonesian noodles with all the trimmings, which was very delicious.
That sounds so lovely. Yum.
Did you
What
get
is it?
yours
What's
cooked?
it's happening now, I think, but I just walked out there. We're in like the hills somewhere. It's very pretty, but there's a blue tongue just on the floor, and I've been stressing about snakes coming in. So at least it wasn't a snake, but there's a blue tongue just sitting.
You want the blue tongue, you want the lizards, they get rid of everything else.
They do,
Are,
they get rid of all the
they're the
bugs.
things you want.
So yeah, that was just a bit of a shock. Um, anyway, we might jump back in, save time. I'll just pop this in the chat here. So the first thing we'll watch a video when we come back on. Where am I up to? Sorry, I had to scroll when you guys weren't here. Here, we're up to here. So we'll just watch that video for 3 minutes 40, but I thought I'd put in, so the other link there is called Arsenic Flowers. That's the book, very, very new, only recently come out by a Gumbaynggirr man that I do work with, which is really cool. It's a book of poetry. And then because it was mentioned, not by me, but I've just put that focus article that Ben said. So that was just on me and some of my work with community recently, the other one. But what we'll do, have a click on that link, 3 minutes 40, we'll watch the video and then we'll come back and discuss it. It's a 9-minute one, but just watch the first 3.5 and then we'll come back and discuss that video. Beautiful. Have you finished watching that video yet? Awesome. I think real quick, just one or two comments on that video. Anything that stood out from what they were talking about?
I love how simple they actually make it sound. Like when you get lost in like the academic world, sometimes I struggle with all like the professional language. I don't like to talk like that in my everyday life. But it was just be welcoming. Welcoming them means literally welcome them, stand there and talk to them and welcome them and listen and be that familiar face and build that lasting connection.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of
that, you know, if they don't trust you, they won't come. That was really short and sweet.
Yeah, big time. I think it's so important. Like, it's just, you know, this is obviously going for any culture, but for us, just as humans, to, you know, rewire a little bit about how we communicate. It doesn't have to be so business oriented or getting straight to the point. Like, having time and space for that relationship building, I think, is just a really nice takeaway from this, in that that's how we're all going to feel best connected and best trusting of the people that we work with and live with. Anything else? Awesome. Well, I've just put up this slide here. Again, a lot of it's pretty self-explanatory. We've already covered it and discussed it, but we'll just go through some of them quickly. There's some important ones to look at. Again, as you've both just said, I think just that rapport piece, building rapport, being that's way more concise than what I said earlier. Take a person before business approach, you know, making sure you're not going in straight with an agenda, introducing yourself, asking people, sharing stories. Just, I don't know, you've seen the way that little kids interact. They just kind of meet up with each other and it's happy and it's beautiful. I think having that rather than going in with this like agenda or fear or ego balances, I think just going in and meeting people completely where they're at, dropping kind of all of that, can be really nice. Depending on the communities that you're working with, some places I know, being out real remote, a lot of Aboriginal communities don't speak English as their first language. So again, just making sure that you're clear, making sure that you're not, you know, at risk of being misunderstood or misconstrued by what you're using. Clear instructions is really important as well. So making sure that, yeah, you've kind of, if you have reached that business agreement or kind of there's organization and arrangements in place, making sure that they're well understood. This is a really big one, and something I think that intersects our whole life is the concept of time. So again, this middle section here says, in Western culture, emphasis is placed on time to meet deadlines and schedules. Everything's completely arbitrary. Why we have to get our tax in on the 31st of whatever or whatever it is not imperative. It's how the kind of Western framing goes. I think having room and space for time to be thrown out, time to not be kind of recognized in the same manner, and understanding that a lot of Aboriginal community members have a lot of community responsibilities, different things going on, family and relationships. So time is not always perceived in the same way, or kind of I guess addressed in the same way too. So that's something just to be aware of. Like, it's not, we're not in a hustle culture when we're kind of within this space, making sure that you value that and really respect that time is not going to be of the same, perceived the same way for different people. Just a couple of things looking at, I mean, again, it's quite self-explanatory, but touch is always a big one. So some cultures it's completely different. You know, letting that person initiate touch. If it's a handshake, that's normally pretty okay. But if it's anything more, like letting someone else initiate, not just going straight in for a hug, especially if it's between man and woman. Again, so just making sure that, you know, whether you ask first, can I hug you, or would you like that, or, you know, would you prefer a handshake, but letting someone else initiate that before you, and then you'll establish for thereafter what that relationship looks like. Eye contact, we briefly discussed. Again, some things in social cues are going to be considered different in different cultures. Shame is a big one. So if you've ever worked with Indigenous youth, they love to talk about shame. Don't feel shame. Don't be shame. It's just talking about kind of that embarrassment that can come with obviously being a youth at all times. But again, it's something that exists within Aboriginal culture. So making sure that you are aware of that, that person might be feeling a little bit more, I guess, embarrassed or not as confident within that. So having your conversations in, you know, a discreet place, not in front of a bunch of people. If that's something, I'm sure you'll feel and understand what feels appropriate for that setting. But again, just having an awareness that, you know, there's a lot of privacy things to be considered too. So just making sure that you're doing that. As we said, listening, biggest thing, just making sure that you're not talking over people, giving people the time to listen, share, and be genuinely curious. You know, you're teachers, your lifelong learners. This is just another space to be really open and curious to learning about. So again, just a couple of different things to be looking at across this. There's my buzzer. This looks really convoluted, but I promise it's not. It's just an overview. So Queensland Curriculum and Assessment Authority, again, there's heaps of resources out there to help you through this. You don't have to do it alone. There's going to be teachers in the school that are already on this path, so make sure you're connecting. But this is just a good little kind of flow chart to connect you to the right people, whether you're feeling correct in having done so. Again, a great place is always going to be the Aboriginal education officer at school. You know, it's their role to be connecting, to be supporting community. So again, you can kind of be having that first initial touch point with anyone there. But then this just goes a bit more deeper and connects you to different organizations. And if there's any particular protocols for different communities, making sure that you're seeking that information out from whether it be staff, community, things like that. So again, don't feel daunted in this. Feel well supported with all the resources that are out there. This is really long, but really cool. So you can see my screen. Yes. This is a self-assessment cultural checklist. Again, as with the last checklist or test, it comes from America. North America. British Columbia. Canada are quite far advanced compared to where Australia are in kind of a lot of their policies, the ways in which Indigenous cultures are, I guess, integrated into the school system. So if you are interested in looking, Canada's a really cool place just to see that little bit further ahead in how things are being supported. There's a guy, I'll put his name in the chat, he's a Gumbaynggirr man, Dylan Berger, doing his PhD, I might have said last week, in Indigenous metaphysics, which is amazing, but he's just been sent over to Canada to discuss with them how where there can be that reciprocity between what we can learn of how they're doing things and then how we can kind of integrate and support that back home. Again, this is something really cool for you to have a look at. It's going to be pretty I guess relevant in Australia too. It's quite general terms, but it just puts you in, you know, you go through this, do I have a clear sense of my own ethnicity and racial identity? Questions on your knowledge, whether you're open to learning. That's a big thing. It's, you know, in this space, it's not so much about knowledge, it's about your values. Are you open to learning? Are you open to being humbled, open to addressing and acknowledging other cultures? Again, something for you just to kind of go through in your own time if you want. And it's a good, as we've said, self-assessment is huge across the board in this. And it's just another really good tool for you to use to make sure that you're feeling like you're growing for yourselves as well. So that's something to look at. Again, I think it is interesting that, you know, a lot of these resources are coming from North America, just showing that Canada has got that little bit more, I guess, a bit further ahead than us, which means we've got things to do and work to do still, but we'll get there. Looking at this one, so as we said previously, if there's a lot of studies that if you've got close family and community relationships, the students are going to be doing better at school. There's going to be more, I guess, successful education and support kind of around that space. So this is just a little bit of, I don't even know what it is, a graph maybe, that looks at the different breakdowns of how you actually achieve that. So obviously, student growth and performance is built on the attendance and wellbeing and engagement down that big bottom pillar. And looking at that, how are you engaging the community? How does that influence a student's wellbeing, therefore the community's and parents' wellbeing as well? And then how does that then, I guess, trickle up into the effect within the classroom? You know, you're showing students that their culture is celebrated, their community and family are engaged with. That provides more of a positive sense of self, motivation and interest within the classroom setting, which then obviously leads to better academic engagement, student wellbeing. So a bit of just, again, I always feel like I'm just preaching to the converted, but again, just a really clear way to show how everything interrelates. It's a very holistic way to look at things. If you can engage community, the effects of that are going to be felt in so many different areas of the classroom too. Looking at this part, so again, a huge part of, obviously across the board, it's just not Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students, it's people in general, students in general, is they're going to be doing better academically if they've got that positive sense of self and sense of identity. So it's important for Indigenous students that they're immersed in a school culture that creates a learning environment that will explicitly challenge them, enable them to think positively about themselves and their culture. As we look, that's one of the cross-curriculum priorities. You know, students or people say you can't be what you can't see. Are we showing you know, successful Aboriginal community members when we're referencing people in the worlds of science? Are we integrating that cultural learning, not in a tokenistic way, but in a matter-of-fact way, that this is how, you know, different cultures and people look at these things as well. So making sure that you're kind of integrating that. And then this second piece is huge. I was really lucky to see kind of this model working firsthand when we worked, my previous job working with disengaged youth in Western Sydney. There was that kind of model of have that really high expectation teaching. You know, if you treat a student like he's or she's a CEO, then they might believe that they've got the capacity to be so. If you chuck a student at the back of the classroom because you don't think that they can keep up, you're not asking them questions, they're going to believe that you don't think that they know the answers. So again, it's having that high expectation teaching, showing students that you believe in them, and then they'll rise kind of to the challenge in doing so. So again, we'll look at that in a couple, I think it might be next week or the week after. We'll look at that in a bit more depth, but just something as well that promotes that high sense of self and self-identity for Aboriginal teachers and students. This is coming from ACT, but again, just looking at how you can be engaging with community, making sure you've got the resources to feel supported to do it effectively. So looking at that, it's having a culturally inclusive school. So again, how are you doing that? Who are the people that can be engaged to do so? How do the teachers feel supported to interact with people? So again, a big part of that is reducing power imbalances. So this is, you know, more so not in the hands of individual teachers, but more in the exec level and the whole culture that the school, or whether it be dioceses or whatever they're related to, what culture they are promoting within the school, who's got the power, are teachers, you know, given respect when they come and ask questions or say, hey, this is a cultural activity I really like to embrace. Is there budget for this? Is this something that I can get out of class time for? Things like that. So again, what does that look like within the school? Again, the second is looking at having those strong partnerships. So all of you have just done research. Some of you have said there's heaps in your different areas. Is there partnerships between local Indigenous organisations and the school? A lot of places are now doing language teaching. Is that something that, you know, there's an hour a week or a fortnight that there can be Aboriginal language teaching from a local community group come in and do. So again, it's looking at how in which ways the school is partnering with different community groups. What's the parent involvement look like? Do parents come in just for the barbecues once a year, or do they feel like they're actively involved in their students or in their child's education journey as well? Are they involved in it? Are there personalized learning plans? Are they part of those discussions too? So just making sure kind of everyone that should be involved feels that they've got power within that place as well. Third one, as we've all kind of just been looking at, it's that time. It's time to go out and connect. Again, it's really hard in time-pressed Western world where everything happens so quickly, but it's taking time if you've got it to have a, connection at a NAIDOC event, go to a community service, something that's happening. So it's having an understanding of what those things are and then how you can connect into those. Great, we can finally chat again. I don't like when I just talk at you. I don't feel like we're talking about all these ways to engage students, and here I am like blah blah blah. But we'll move on to this part. How many are we? I'll pop you into groups again to discuss this. So just having a bit of a understanding and conversation from what we've just talked about and looked at, but visualizing what we've learned in the last couple of weeks, what a culturally safe and welcoming classroom and class space looks like for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students, but not only students, their parents, community. And when you're discussing this and thinking about this, thinking back, I think last week we had some really good visuals and videos, but looking at what that might include in seating arrangements, in what you can include. So I'll put you in groups for about 3 minutes or so, and we'll just discuss what that culturally safe classroom looks like, and then we'll come back and discuss it. Might recreate the room, so yeah. See you in a couple of minutes.
all trickling back in. What did we discuss? What were some of the ideas?
We talked about content being like tangible, visible things, but also being part of multimedia, like if students are watching a series or a movie to study, having series or movies where Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are main characters, because and culture is then inherently becomes a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Really good point. Where can you, incidentally bring in these ideas into the classroom? Go on.
Yeah, because we discussed like the difference between primary and high school in terms of primary school is generally the classrooms have a little bit more free reign in terms of their decoration because it's more about who you are and how you behave, and what you are as a classroom culture is generally on display in the room somewhere. Whereas in a high school classroom, I'm coming from my key learning area of science, it's generally more about what you're learning. Like there's generally enough space for the school-wide positive behavior stuff to be on the walls, and then everything else is kind of your key learning areas. So it becomes more important to tailor your content. So if you're learning about any types of animals or whatever, you are differentiating so that it's your local animals and their local names, and making sure that wherever possible, you're bringing it back to like on-country learning rather than generic, because that's really easy to do in science. It's generic animals that you're learning in your dichotomous keys and your food webs, and you're looking at just a generic water cycle, not where you are and how it affects right here and now.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Like I remember going from primary school when it's beautiful and it's really welcoming, and then I was in B block, B7. I can remember the classroom. It was my first homeroom. I was like, this place is so boring. There's nothing on the walls. There's nothing to make you feel connected to. So you're right, Cora, like you got to get it in your content some way. How can you, make that the place that feels you can bring this stuff in? Yeah, great point. Big difference between those two, I guess, different stages, isn't it? Anyone else?
We talked a bit about the seating arrangements and why, like, first of all, why is that even there? But then kind of considering if your Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children are kind of in that lower end of the group, being really careful about how often you group those in that setting and have them sitting together, and being really intentional to not make it really aware that, oh, you're in the low group again, and always needing the support, but to really be intentional about finding ways and times that they don't need to be in that group, that they've got the opportunity to show what they can do as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I guess that's the power breakup, what does the seating arrangement look like? What's the interaction with the teacher? Is it that really traditional kind of teacher at the front, kids sitting watching the teacher? How can you break that up to integrate those 8 ways of learning a little bit better as well? Yeah, awesome. We're getting on. I'll move on from this one. This is a really cool, have I pulled it up already? Yes. Again, just another really good resource for you. There's so many resources out there, so please don't feel you're doing this alone. 7 ways teacher can foster culturally safe classrooms. So again, just on that question, there's so many different ways, obviously, as well, Cora, like it's going to be different for different schools. High school's a different ballpark to primary school, different to early education. So just a couple of the different ways that you can do that, it's kind of high level, and then you can break that down for yourself on different levels. But again, that community relationship building piece, continuous learning, modeling the behavior that you want to see. So again, this is a good place. This is not what I'm supposed to be showing right now, but this is a really cool place to be coming to. It's created by First Nations people. bit of a blog kind of setting, but a really great place to look for different resources, questions, teachers doing the same thing that you're doing, will be doing, coming and using this resource is really cool as well. Again, I think a lot of this, we know it. I even find now, like, we know what we should be doing, but having it backed up with hard evidence, you know, going to the Closing the Gap report, looking at the University of Queensland case studies, because it makes you feel, I find it really hard in kind of education and social science. It's not tangible. You can't see a direct result. So having studies, I feel, really underpins like the importance of what we do. You'll go, oh, but it doesn't feel like anything's happening. If you kind of, you know, obviously build these relationships, and then you're reading reports, you're seeing stuff that says this is the impact of it over 5 or 10 years or whatever. I think just for me personally, it makes me feel, oh, that's right, this has strong effect. So there's a lot of kind of reports out there and studies that you can connect yourself to see that it's really making an impact to the work that you're doing. And again, this one is Queensland curriculum based. They're based up in Brizzy. So looking at them. I'll leave one with you because we'll discuss the assignment. But here is, again, so many videos, but they say it's so much better than me. Here's a 3-minute 50 video talking about children's sense of belonging, sense of identity. So watch that for 3 minutes, and then we'll come back again, discuss it, and then I'll move on to the assignment. So just give me a thumbs up in 3 minutes, 4 minutes when you've watched it.
Hey Jade, sorry. Am I clicking on the wrong link? I've already watched this one.
You might be, I might have put in the wrong link. How's that one? Is that working?
Is that Denise?
Yes. Have you
Oh,
seen this already?
I thought I just, yeah. Am I going mad? Did I already watch this?
Okay, maybe you have. Maybe it's in there twice.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, we have watched
No.
it.
Or unless it's like an extended version or something.
This might be the one. That's a TV show. Good pickup. We might just ignore that part. And move on to this one. This is an hour long, so we're obviously not watching it. Oh, sorry, that's the ad. I didn't know that would do that. There we go. So this is an hour long, so please don't start watching it. But again, it's another great resource. So Teacher New South Wales has a teaching podcast that talks about just this, you know. It's with a couple of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander teachers as well. So this is just another place for you to be coming to, having a play around. I think it's on Spotify as well. Obviously much easier to listen to if you're cooking on the bus or whatever. But this is, yeah, teachers describing what they do within their work world to make sure that they're kind of doing all the things that we've been talking about, providing and creating that culturally safe classroom setting too. So again, something that's really a good place for you to start with. Again, please feel that you're not alone in this. You know, we might sit together and you're like, oh, I've got all these cool ideas. And then you go back to school and it might feel like you're the only person thinking of this, or it's fresh on your mind. There are so many resources out there for the different states. It's obviously different, but just keep referring back to them. Like, there's traction happening. I do the tute in class on Wednesdays in Coffs Harbour, the face-to-face one, and some of the students were saying that, you know, they go all excited, they talk about what they've been learning at uni, and then they come up against or they're in the classroom of a teacher who's taught for 104 years and they're not really interested in learning and developing, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. So again, if you're feeling all inspired and then a little bit downtrodden when you go off into the real world, there's so much stuff out there happening. It's just, you've got to kind of find it a little bit. But yes, I'm imagining some of the nods, that might be a shared experience some of you have had. Oh, this poor little student, she's 22 and she's doing prac at her old school and she's got all these ideas and she's like, I just can't get through them, you know. So she was a little bit not feeling great with that. Yeah. But we're almost pretty good at my timekeeping today. Before we move on to the assignment, just on this relationship building piece, is there anything else you'd like to discuss, or, you know, anything we haven't covered? Maybe you've had this experience before and you've felt that it's gone well, that it's not gone well. Yeah, any ideas from this? Any points to share?
Just my personal experience, the Aboriginal education officer in the school they're phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And yeah, I built a relationship with them, and they literally walk you through, and if you're genuine, they'll take us all the time in the world for you. It's amazing.
Awesome. Yeah. Passionate. And I think, you know, seeing people care about what you care about is really cool as well. So connecting. Yeah, that's awesome, Jane. Nothing else? Great. Now that you've all hopefully finished and submitted assessment 1, we'll look to assessment 2. So you've got a little bit of time for this one. It's 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks away, which is not ages, but in terms of SCU terms, it's a little bit longer. And this one's 50% as well, obviously. And it's broken down into 3 different sections, so totaling 1,500 words, which I believe was the same as your current assignment. Great. Again, if anything contradicts, Maddie is the voice of reason. Ask her, use that discussion board for the place. But essentially you're writing 3 different reflections on these questions. So the first is, how has your understanding of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander history, culture, language evolved through this unit? What are the key elements of successful community engagement with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities, and how can you implement these in your teaching? When going through the slides, I would say this module is most relevant to that one, using those resources, pulling that out, having those really clear kind of roadmaps that we just had a look at in this class. That'll be really relevant for number 2. And then how can educators foster a sense of belonging and identity for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students in the classroom? So again, you've asked, they always use the different words, but they often just mean the same thing, but you're asked 3 different questions in these activities. The first is to reflect. So reflecting on the importance of the relationship, the knowledge that you've got, and that sense of identity. So that's one part of it. You're reflecting, discussing, what does that look like, identification, what do you see that being? And then the third one is considering. So you'll see all of them are like, now how do you consider that new influence? How do you consider the impacts on these strategies? Things like that. So that's kind of breaking down the assignments 3 and then into 3 separate parts again. What does that look like practically? So reflecting on the question, making sure that you're reading the question. I know that was something from my last one. Students just didn't read it correctly. In your research and your referencing, you're using 3 to 6 references per question. So you'll end up with 9 to 6, 3 is 18, 9 to 18 different references, a mixture of resources, articles, definitely studies to show the impact. Like again, that third question there, how can educators foster students in the classroom, considering the impact of that? We just looked at that in the first couple of minutes of this. We looked at reports that showed what the impact is of having close community relationships. Closing the gap is going to be really important for you there. It's got really clear answers on what the relationship's been like, how it's developed over time. So just using that to back up your strategies and your research. And then writing reflections in that as well, all in APA 7, which is my personal favorite, referencing style as well. Again, just breaking it down into kind of a portfolio. But any questions?
Jade, you mentioned like a researcher. Was it Dylan someone?
Oh yeah, this guy.
Yeah, can I just grab his name? Is that all right?
Yeah. Dylan. I'll give you his profile so he's at UQ. He's doing it through UQ remotely. Gumbaynggirr man that's grown up here. He's the one in the photo with the big beard. Incredibly intelligent. But this talk that I went to from him, it was really cool because he and one of the uncles were speaking completely in Gumbaynggirr to each other, which is something I've never seen before. And yeah, I think he's probably 3.5 years into his study, so he should be done soon. But he plays a really interesting role because he talks about that revitalization of culture and language integrated with, I guess, yeah, metaphysics, but he's not so much the teacher of it. He's like, there's so many teachers of language. That's not my role. Mine is to kind of consolidate it, and how do we now share that and the intelligence of what we know and what we've consolidated with everyone else. So he's really, really cool. I spoke with Kirsty. I spoke with Kirsty about this person. She's a Gumbaynggirr woman as well. A doctor of, not sure if science is the right word. Again, I'll share her page. And she's really big in the science world and how we can connect. I guess she's created the Gumbaynggirr calendar. Dr. Chelsea Marshall works down in the Indigenous Knowledge Labs through RMIT or University of Melbourne. They're a really good place to start as well. So that's kind of Tyson Yankaporta, who wrote Sand Talk. He is the professor at the Indigenous Knowledge Labs, and they have a really cool kind of starting point for anything that's going on. They've kind of got their finger in the pie involved in that, so they're a cool place. And Dr. Chelsea Marshall works down there a lot. So again, I think that's really cool as well. It's like, what place is like Indigenous academic playing in the current space as well? There's a lot of I guess articles coming out in terms of education and Aboriginal education too. So looking at the academic space and what's happening in this area is really interesting as well.
Thank you.
All right, all good. Well, we are right on time. If you've got questions, please use Blackboard. Best of luck getting the assignments in. Hopefully you all do very well. I trust that you will. And I just, as Ben said, Ben's mum's been sharing me photos of his own wedding, just as we've been chatting, which is very nice to see Ben looking very schmick.
Thank you.
Did it
Very
rain?
enthusiastic. It did rain, yeah, which we didn't think it rained that time of year up here, but we were wrong. Yeah.
Good luck. Made for nice photos under the umbrella.
Oh, thank you. Well, hopefully you have a lovely weekend where you are as well, even though it's hot.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah, it was very hot, not expected. Away from the ocean, it's a little bit hotter here, but otherwise, go and get my dinner. Yeah, I'll see you all next week. Again, enjoy your weeks. Good luck starting the next assignment. And see you in a couple of days.
Thanks. Bye.
Cheers.